Boatworks today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexial Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much. So welcome back, everybody. Hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. My name is Andy with Boatworks today, and finally I can say definitively this project is going to be a go. Now, just as a quick recap, a couple weeks ago while I left off, we weren't quite sure if we were actually going to be closing on our old house in Wisconsin. Well, that went off without a hitch. We've closed. It is behind us. So as of now, it is full steam ahead with this project. Now, just as a quick recap, in case you're stumbling across this video for the first time, you haven't seen anything that's happened prior to this, we moved. This is going to be the new shop, but it needs a lot of work to get it to the point where it's actually going to be functional. So that's going to be the primary focus here for a little while, and then we'll be back to normal again, working on boats, doing the itchy scratchy show. So now, as you saw in the beginning of this video, we got the first of what's going to be several deliveries of OSB. Now, this particular pile, this is going to be slated strictly for the ceiling. I didn't want to have all of the material here delivered all at once, because then it's that much more that you've got to shuffle and have to work around. So right here, this pile is 60 sheets, and actually I was really surprised that I was able to even move it. 60 sheets, these things average around 50 pounds per sheet, so it's about 3,000 pounds. My tractor wasn't supposed to be able to lift 3,000 pounds. I don't know that I could have taken it off the ground. Maybe, maybe not. The back end was getting a little bit light, and well, I didn't want to go ass over tea kettle on that one. So I got it lifted up just enough to kind of skid it in place, but got her done. I was actually quite surprised. Now, this is this first pile, like I said, this is going to be for the ceiling. This is going to be, it's like the first thing that's got to get done. Well, the next thing that has to get done, I guess. I'll touch more on that here in a little bit, but the short story is that the OSB's got to go up for the ceiling, because then the next contractor that's going to be coming in is going to be for the insulation, which again, I'm going to have more on that here in a second. Now, hanging this stuff is not going to be real easy for me, because I can't find anybody to come in and help. It's just too late in the season. I mean, if I could find a contractor to come in and do it, I probably would, just because of my shoulders, but it is what it is, and it's got to get done. So I have my brother coming out next week. I believe it's Wednesday and Thursday, or Thursday and Friday. It's one of those two options there. And I also have a scissor lift coming in from United Rental. Yeah, from United Rental. It's a 19-foot scissor lift. It can hold like 500 pounds. So I'm hoping that both my brother and I will be able to be in the this bucket thing, you know, whatever, the platform. It's got railings on it. Between the two of us, both get in there, and then just basically go straight up, one sheet at a time, and nail it, or, you know, anchor it in place. We'll see. It's one of those things. I suspect it's either going to go smooth or it's going to be a complete train wreck. So the lift comes in on Tuesday, and yeah, that'll be kind of interesting. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to happen or not, but I'm hoping that within 2 days, you know, with my brother and I here, within 2 days, at least all of the full-size sheets can get in place. There's going to be half, you know, sheets, you know, along the sides, but I'm hoping we can get all the full sheets done in 2 days. I don't know. So now, once the ceiling is in place, then it's going to be time for the insulation people to come in and work their magic. Now, there's this whole insulation thing has been a bit of an evolution, I guess. Initially, I was just planning on putting in 24-inch battens, fiberglass battens along the walls, and then I was, you know, regardless, I was going to have the ceiling sprayed. Well, come to find out, insulation batting is pretty much non-existent in the width that I need. I mean, you can get 16-inch wide battens all day long, but all the framing in here is on 24 on center, and nobody has it. And the best estimate I could find from someone as far as an ETA for delivery was about 3 weeks out, because it's a special order. By the time they get it in, and then by the time it gets in my hands, that's about 3 weeks, which would have put me about to the middle of the end of October, which that just in and of itself pretty much made it a deal breaker. So looking at other options, really the only other option is going to be foam, or, you know, having somebody come in and spray this. Now, about 2 months ago, I talked with somebody, it just kind of in passing, I guess. It was for about a half-hour conversation on the phone. But a couple months ago, I did speak with a guy that does foam insulation. And the number that he told me, I don't know what he was smoking or where he came up with these numbers, but he was telling me this is going to be like $30-some thousand to insulate this building. Well, obviously that wasn't going to happen. So made some other phone calls, found a company a little bit more local here. And basically, the short story of it is that he was almost 3 times higher than what it actually should have been. So before I tell you what the cost on that is going to be, which again, just to kind of be transparent here, I'm going to be covering all the costs from start to finish on this project. So what we kind of landed on here after about an hour-long conversation, multiple conversations, is that for the walls, these are 2x6 framed walls. We're going to be going with it's like a dense pack, wet. I don't know that wet is really the best term to use for it, but it's like a damp cellulose. The brand name specifically, I believe, is Applegate, and it's not wet, but it's kind of damp. It's just kind of damp enough to, when you spray it into the wall cavity, it sticks for the most part. I mean, some of it does fall back out, but it's a dense pack material that's sprayed in. It's got some other little goodies mixed in with just the newspaper and the water, I guess. That I don't know if that's specifically for helping with the insulation properties or if that's to help it stick in the wall. But anyways, so the walls are all going to be done with 5.5 inches of this wet pack, or, you know, spray Applegate cellulose. And then they come in and they shave that flush on the studs, on the face of the studs. And then I presume you got to give that a few days or whatever to dry out before you actually go over top of it with sheathing. But then over top of that, I'll be going again with more OSB. That'll be the next delivery here. Now for the ceiling, I thought this was actually pretty reasonable. We're going with 10 inches of open cell foam. Don't know the brand name specifically offhand, but 10 inches up on there. And the way that our values, I went to Insulation University here over the past week or so, kind of working with Brian, trying to get all this sorted out, and just so that I have an understanding, because there are some little nuances here that we kind of need to work around, which I'll touch on here in a minute. But as far as our values, our values are kind of an arbitrary term. There's a lot more to it. It's probably half of half of the equation is what the R value actually is. The other half of the equation is being able to completely block any type of air transfer or airflow. So with the blown cellulose and the foam both being a dense pack, that makes a huge difference on the actual performance of these two types of insulation. So if you had to put an R value, because when I was talking with the HVAC guys, they needed to have some kind of an R value to do their heat load calcs. So the walls themselves, they're going to be coming in at R21 just off the cellulose. That's not going to be including the sheathing that goes over top of that, and any foam board that I may put over top of that yet. Again, because I want this building to be stupid efficient. Basically, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I want to be able to heat this building with literally a couple of candles. I know that's I think a huge exaggeration, but when I'm talking with these guys, that's pretty much what I'm relaying. I want this place to be stupid efficient. So the R value on the walls, just off the insulation, is going to come in at R21. By the time I do some of these other things, it's going to be a little bit better than that. Now up in the ceiling, that is going to be R60, which I thought off of 10 inches of open foam was a little ridiculous, but that's what I'm told. Evidently foam is a pretty magical thing. Now the one thing that I just realized yesterday that, to be quite honest, kind of created a little bit of a panic attack. The ridge on this building is not vented. The soffits are, but the ridge, unfortunately, is not. In my understanding, I mean, this is like old school construction, I guess. Maybe it's just sad, it's just old school. But my understanding was that your attic space, it has to be vented. I mean, you've got to have airflow between the warm and the cold, otherwise you get condensation and eventually mold and rot and all those other nasty little critters crawling around up there. Now, so once I realized that, I got a hold of the insulation guys and just kind of ran that by them and said, well, now what do I got to do here? I mean, there are options, there are workarounds, which I'm not going to do a deep dive on here just because, it's just too much info. But the short story is that the way that he explained it to me, he's like, we do this all the time on old houses that were built before anything was ever vented. He's like, it's not going to be a problem. The reason it's not going to be a problem is because we're using basically a foam type insulation up for the ceiling area. Basically what that does is it creates a 98% basically sealed layer between, there is no airflow, there is no warm air permeating through there. And over that 10 inches, he's like, that 10 inches will hold down all the heat. He's like, there isn't going to be much, if at all, any, that's going to permeate through that and actually get up into the attic, the attic area. And he's like, by the time that actually rises up to the underside of the roof itself, he's like, it's going to be cooled down enough where there isn't going to be any condensation. So the reason this was causing me kind of such a fit here is because, well, if that was going to be an issue, which evidently it's not, I'll explain here in a minute, but if that was going to be an issue, then I was going to have to try and find a contractor to come in and basically take the ridge cap off and put in a vented ridge. And that just wasn't going to happen. There's just no one's available. It's too late in the season. So I had a little bit of a freak out moment, but Brian's like, well, go ahead. We're going to go forward with the plans as we have it laid out right now. He's like, I don't think there's going to be a problem even long term, but if you want a little bit of peace of mind, we'll get through this winter, as it is, and then if you want for a little bit of peace of mind, then next summer when the addition is being built, have that same contractor come in and basically rework the ridge on there, making it vented so that it's actually 100% proper. So that's kind of what we're going with. I'm still learning through all this. I'm sure there's HVAC guys or insulation guys, whatever, that kind of stumble across these videos. If that seems to kind of ring true to you, let me know. If it's something doesn't sound quite right, again, let me know there as well. Now, just kind of head this comment off. I know people are going to say, well, you can get foam and spray it on the underside of the roof, and then you don't have to vent. And that is true, but it complicates things overall. We're trying to kind of work through this in an efficient way, cost-wise and time-wise. Now, okay, so I never really broke down the cost. So for the insulation on this, for the walls, with that the Applegate dense pack cellulose, and then the 10 inches of open cell foam up here, that came in at just under or just over $11,000. Now, the appealing part of about all of this, at least for me, right now time is of the essence because we're about 6-8 weeks away from possibly seeing our first snowflakes. That crew will be in and out in 2, maybe 3 days. And as it stands right now, once we get the ceiling or the sheathing up on the ceiling in here, I'm hoping that's going to take less than a week. But the installation guys, they'll be in and out in about 3 days. If I were, kind of balancing that against if I were actually going to be in here trying to hang fiberglass battens, yeah, that would go quicker. Or that process does go quick. Not going to go that quick. Where I can get basically the entire building would be 100% insulated in 2 days. That's just nuts. So then after the installation guys do their thing, they are scheduled to start on October 1st. So make sure everything gets in place so that they can actually hit that start date. But after they come in, do their thing, and they leave, then the HVAC guys are going to be coming in and actually hooking up the heat. So now what we're going to be going with for a heating system in here is going to be hot water baseboard heat. Just because really it's the cost-wise, it's the most feasible option that I have. I know a lot of people have made the comments of putting in like these little torpedo infrared heaters or whatever they hang from the ceiling. I don't want to go that direction for a couple of reasons. One, it's an open flame, and with the materials that I work with, boom. I just don't want to have that concern. Working off of a hot water boiler here, that's a sealed unit, drawing air from the outside, and it's exhausting directly outside. There is no open flame that's going to be anywhere near any kind of vapors or anything like that. So we're going with hot water baseboard heat, and essentially they're going to be running perimeter around this entire building. We haven't quite settled on which specific types of registers we're going to be using. I'm trying to find something that's a little bit more heavy duty than like the ones that you typically see like in a residential or in a house. We had those put in the basement of our house that we sold in Wisconsin, and while they work really well, they are a very thin gauge metal. It's just, if you look at them wrong, you're going to get a dent in them. So I'm trying to, he's doing a little bit of homework to see if we can find something that's a little bit more industrial, something that's gonna actually stand up to some shop use. I mean, granted, it's just gonna be me in here, so I mean, it's not like I've got there's gonna be a crew of people in here running tools and whatever into the registers themselves. I'm usually pretty careful about that kind of thing. But even still, something a little bit more robust would be nice. So he's looking into that. We're also looking at putting in a 1 or 2 air scrubbing units. Basically something that when I close down at night, I walk out, turn these things on, and they run on a timer for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and basically they just circulate the air and filter it. That would be fantastic. Now in the other shop in Wisconsin, in Herbster, what I had in place for kind of trying to do that was basically a heated air supply system, which was that big vent. So I mean, I could run that, and then I could run my exhaust fans that were in the back of the building, and that worked pretty well. But I'm not putting that kind of a system in here. One, it's just, it would be way overkill. I'm not going to try and bring that unit from there to here because it's oversized, way too large for this size space. So that unit is staying in Wisconsin, but I'm trying to come up with something a little bit different, to work out here. Now, I don't really have intentions of doing a lot of spraying, paint-wise, spraying here like I did back in Wisconsin. With the way paints have evolved, specifically Alexials, I see myself going forward with most part. I mean, I may spray some little parts here and there, but for doing like the whole boat, I don't think I'm going to be doing a whole hell of a lot more spraying. I think I'm going to be doing it pretty much all by roll. It's cleaner, and it's just cleaner. So that's kind of what I'm trying to mitigate here. I'll still have to have something in place to kind of manage fumes. But as far as managing the dust, I don't want to have big exhaust fans and all that other nonsense here. I want to have a couple of air scrubbers that basically I can run, circulate the air around the building for a couple of hours, and basically clean it. So when I come in the morning, it's whistle clean by my standards. It's almost getting time to put my bibs back on. Now, before I close this video out, I do have a question for you because I am honestly looking for some real feedback here. And it's about this space right here. Now, I'm not tearing this down. This room is going to be, it's the utility room. It's going to be the storage where all the materials are kept. It'll be clean, Nothing, it'll be clean and out of the work area, basically is what I'm trying to get at. So tools, supplies, and the utility room, that's going to be in the lower area here. So this is not getting ripped down. I'm going to try and work with it. But what I haven't been able to figure out yet is what to do with the upper part of this loft. It's a great space, size-wise. The footprint on this is 10 wide and 30 or 32 deep. So I mean, there's a fair amount of square footage up there. I just don't know what the hell to do with it. It's not like I can turn it into my woodworking area because, well, for one, my table saw weighs over 1,000 pounds. I mean, I don't have any way of getting equipment of that weight up there. And even if I could get it up there, I don't know that I'd be real comfortable having several 1,000 pounds of equipment up there. I don't know. Something about that just doesn't feel quite right. So what to do with the space? I don't know. I would love, give me some suggestions. I mean, I can modify it if I wanted to. I could put in separate rooms up there if I wanted to have maybe like a finishing room or a varnishing room or something. I don't know yet. I haven't quite figured it out. Priority-wise, it's not on the top of my list. Everything else here is kind of taking priority above, trying to get this sorted out. But I would like to kind of have some kind of an idea in the background just to kind of, kick around as I'm working through some of this other stuff. So again, 10 by 30, 32-ish, give or take. So what would you do if with this kind of a space? Would you frame it out and basically turn it into another sealed room? So it'd be just like this one, except up on top. Leave it open, as a work platform for something. Not quite sure how that would work. I mean, it's not like I'm bringing in the large boats like I used to, where I could just basically step off the platform onto the deck of a sailboat. When I was working on stuff of that size, that worked out pretty slick. But I'm not bringing boats of that size in here anymore. Physically, I have no interest in working on projects that are that large. So I don't know quite what to do with it. It's not a wasted area, but as far as how to utilize it to its potential, I don't know yet. I'm looking for some feedback. So if you have some thoughts or suggestions, please leave those down below in the comment section. So on that note, I think I'm going to close this video out and try and get a little bit of rest this weekend. This is pretty much the calm before the storm. Come Monday morning, it's go time. So try and rest up, get my motivation ready, and hit the ground running Monday morning. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you in advance. Really, really appreciate that. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions on the loft, I would love to hear them. Please leave those down below in the comment section. And as always, thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next week.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.